Warning, warning. Two idiots are reading sad shit over the intercom. Please cover your ears and await further instructions.
Hello! Welcome back to Discovering SCP, my Tanlovelies. We are back.
Stop using Tanlovelies. It's not going to happen. Put it away. Put that sick shit away.
What if I came out, I have a new, profile picture, the avatar is, pastel.
Oh my god.
Hello, Tanlovelies!
We're now Pastel Cozy Tea game channel.
Yeah.
In this indie RPG, you'll be playing as a coffee shop.
Hello, my Tanlovelies. Today we're going to be doing some lovely noises.
Jesus Christ. Who is this mysterious figure?
Stroke your microphone for ASMR effect with a hairbrush or something.
Oh, point me with my finger like it was a dog.
Hello and welcome back to Tanlovelies channel.
No, I'm not Tanlovely. The audience is my Tanlovelies. I'm still Tanity.
Speaking of Tanlovelies, I believe we have one with us today. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Is that an identity
Hello.
claim for yourself, Sobek?
Yes. Hello, my name is Sobek. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. I've heard you're quite possibly the best author on the wiki.
It's unconfirmed. We're conferring with the referees right now, but maybe they'll get back to us at some point.
I remember they were counting up the upvotes and they realized that Tanhoney had rigged them terribly. And that
That's possible.
if we do adjust for his interference, that you would in fact be Mr. 5000.
Hold on.
That's
Where is this
true.
interference coming from?
You.
Well, we've checked the account.
What did I do? How did I interfere?
You stole
We
the
checked the
lives of
books.
thousands of dead people and used them to make wiki accounts.
I conquered them.
Yeah. There's also some discrepancies on your tax returns, so we're going to have to check those out.
That's unrelated.
Listen, you keep my tax
The money
out of it.
was merely resting in my account, my 10 lovelies.
I didn't have to move the money about. It was scalding to the touch.
I'm gonna have to move some things around. Snaps like Dr. Manhattan, blows up an IRS agent. But anyways, we are here. We have our friend Sobek, and he has some articles to show us. 1 to 2.
Dude.
Love to
Yes.
hear about it.
Sobek, I have a question for you, real quick.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about goblins?
Ooh. I'm a big fan of goblins. Last time I was on, we read an article about goblins, so I feel like I have to say yes. Big goblin fan.
That's how I used to feel. I love goblins conceptually. I love their design. I think they're funny little gremlin guys. I love when they're rowdy. I love when they're good. But I had an encounter that did, in fact, make me racist against Pathfinder goblins recently. Yeah. So we were in this big fight, right? And we were fighting these weird half dog, half horse creatures in Pathfinder that could speak, and they would take your words as you said them, fucking with your spells and your ability to communicate. And because goblins in Pathfinder are apparently afraid of dogs and horses, our rogue just sat inside of a pile of rubble while we all nearly died and got downed over and over. And then finally, I or someone got something off to make one of them flat-footed. And then all of a sudden he comes out of the rubble to shoot it and finish the kill. And I got a little heated, I'm not gonna lie.
So was the rogue a goblin, or were the
Yeah,
enemies
the
goblins?
rogue was a goblin who was afraid of the dog horse things until they were flat-footed. And someone made a comment about it. Someone was like, wow, look at the rogue finally coming out after an enemy's flat-footed. And I said, they're horses! They're always flat-footed! They have hooves! And I got really heated. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I'm definitely gonna kill this fucking character however I can.
I would say that what you got there is not necessarily a goblin problem. You've got a classic rogue in the party problem. You just have to take care of that.
That's what I'm saying, right? Because
The only
normally...
cure for a rogue is a rogue stagger.
Because normally I'm a roleplay head, not a combat head, but this campaign has been very combat heavy, which I'm not opposed to. It's a good group. Love the player to death. He's a great player. Love his other characters, but this fucking rogue goblin is driving me nuts. I need to kill him off as soon as possible.
It's rarely the player. I find rogue players, when they go to something else, they're fine. It's just there's something about playing a rogue that just turns you into the worst fucking asshole on the planet.
I'm telling you. Straight up. But yeah, so
I think
now
we should do something about rogues until we can resolve this situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And every time I was like, can you come help? They're like, no, we're afraid of horses and dogs. We literally have weapons called horse choppers. I'm like, then why aren't you chopping the horses? I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Anyways, I needed to get that out of my system.
Okay, you're heard
Thank
and
you.
you are loved.
Thank you. This is the therapy talk I needed to heal from that session. Right now, we have more important things to do, though. We have to read Peak Fiction, written by Sobek, the arguably greatest writer on the wiki of the modern era.
Arguably is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, Rebecca. I'm just
Maybe
kicking
less
back
than you
against hostility.
Okay.
You're just catching strays.
It's funny to
fine.
me that Tanlovelies...
Boomers often ragely impotent against the younger generation as they replace them. It's okay, Tanlovelies.
What'd you say to me?
Oh, he's an old dad.
You wouldn't hurt your favorite Tanlovely, would you?
How long have you been on the wiki, Tan?
Long enough to understand.
Longer
I'm
than the
part
age of
fucking
some of the people in our community, right?
I am the fucking wiki, okay?
No one eats, sleeps, or breathes this wiki.
Bobo built the SCP wiki!
Not yet.
It is on his shoulders!
It's treason, Ben.
Alright, how do I sign into the Wanderer's Library? Can I do that?
No, it's possible.
You press the sign in button at the top and then it signs you in.
I'm trying to so I can upvote this, but society.
Yeah. He hasn't even read it. That's how good I am.
Alright, well now I'm going to downvote it.
No!
And done. Alright.
That's actually devastating because no one reads these. So
Oh! Okay. I'll give you an upvote, not downvote it if it sucks. How about that?
Okay.
Alright, shall we begin then?
Mm-hmm.
Tan Honey, can you do the thing you do best?
Absolutely.
I will say, for our audience, mild content warning of suicidal stuff, but nothing happens. Just a little bit of
Spoiler alert.
if that's
No,
rough
no,
for
nothing
you.
happens.
But I'm protecting people.
You could have just said spoiler alert, suicidal ideation.
That's true, but yeah.
Talking, okay?
Now there's no tension. I don't give a swag about this character.
I do, because I have empathy. I'm a dark empath.
You don't have empathy. I've read Aetheral Space.
They're not real.
Lives are like pennies. They don't matter. They get lost between the cushions of your
today
world.
he was on this very day he was gloating and laughing maniacally at someone.
Why
who was
would I have
suffering.
empathy for things I create? They're just
Why
extensions.
would I have empathy for objects? All right, shall we continue?
I have empathy for the people I recognize.
Oh my God. Who do you recognize?
Those who are worthy.
Who's worthy? Name one.
Not you.
Oh.
Name one worthy.
Name one worthy.
My tan worthy.
Tanhony.
You know what? I know who. Salmon Corbet would be a worthy, right?
Absolutely.
That was one of your OGs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would die for him.
Welcome back to Glazing
the
Salmon
few who has
Corbet,
achieved
my favorite
humanity.
SCP podcast.
Salmon would be allowed to live in my world, I suppose, but he would be one of a very small
Oh,
number.
now. I suppose we'll have ruined the kennels.
Put me in a cage.
Oh, boy,
Don't
no.
worry.
Release the
Rocky
hounds! I get to leave.
2. Rocky 2 used to be human.
Oh my God. What are you implying here? He's gonna start casting his
Let's
dog
begin.
polymorph.
You'd better stop
Concrete, steel,
interrupting
and
Rocky
sodium.
3.
Let's find out what happens.
Yeah.
5:32:13. A young man strides across my skin. It's 32 minutes past 5 on a Friday, and he is free from his shackles for a time. His outfit is the product of hours spent elbow deep in charity shop racks. A patterned shirt that has not seen a tour of duty in my nightclub since the 1980s. Leather trousers, tight as a second skin, constrict blood flow to the head. This is intentional. No thoughts are necessary for tonight. He is bursting with the glee of youth, golden brown eyes, incandescent, indestructible, indefatigable.
Indefatigable.
My world belongs to him. I see his death coming 23 seconds before it happens. I do what I can. Billboard sirens flash his favourite advertisements. I assault his nose with the smells of doner, salty and dripping with fat, desperately trying to shift him off of this course. A grease paper wrapper, clinging to my body, peels away and soars through my ear before beginning a perilous stoop towards his face. It misses. The van's radio spits static as I seize the treacherous airwaves that pollute me, throttling them. It is enough to pull the driver from the unthinking autopilot, but not enough to avert my son's death. He dives out from the haven curb. He hadn't noticed that the lights had changed. 1,974 kilograms of steel, aluminium, and rubber decimate him. I wish I could look away. I caress him as he tumbles across my body. I am hurting him. My skin is too coarse for him. Too many hard angles.
Is his dad the asphalt?
I hold him in his last moments, whispering petty comforts and platitudes. Actually, Donnell, I believe this is a point review of a street.
Oh, yeah, that's what I figured too.
I'm here. You are not alone. You never were. His eyes go wide. He can see me. Never been able to before, but as he starts to leave his body, perception reaches new heights.
Actually, it might be the city itself, right?
Maybe. I can see his eyes that he knows me, recognizes my presence. His hand reaches up as if to brush against my cheek, but he cannot make it. He chokes words through broken lips and bloody teeth. Don't be sorry. I didn't regret a single second of it. His vital fluids stain me. Tomorrow they'll be bleached away. Today I mourn my son. I scream and the wind rises. I stoop down to collect his last breath. It's a rutty gold thing, the soft and warm glow of his youth intermingling with the violence of his passing. It squirms against my grip, eager to be free, to leave this world and return anew. But I will hold it for now. I am not ready to let it go. Already I feel my focus pulled elsewhere. Popcorn.
5:32:28. I find myself in a hallway. It's colder here. This part of me has not been maintained. Brutalism decays into smog-stained concrete and ingrain-walled apartments, halls of beige, the landlord's favorite. I recall the years past when this was a hive, my children moving to and fro, industry and art colliding in a flurry of frenetic passion and motion, all gone now. Rust teems from every edge of abandoned industrial yards. I face a door, white wood, stained yellow now and peeling badly. I can hear the ghosts of footsteps long gone haunting my surfaces. They were imprinted as someone crept silently away at the crack of dawn years past. The wound of that betrayal is festered here. I pass inside. Before I was as a mother, cradling her dying son. Here I come bearing scythe and hourglass. This is a woman who has seen a lot, and doesn't have much more to see. Her pupils are pinpricks, and her breath rattles through her throat like thick exhaust. The skin is weathered and cold. Her clothes are of an era past. Suppose she couldn't bear to throw them away. That would tell the world she had moved on, that she was, on some level, fine with what had happened, fine with her child leaving. The report will say opioid overdose, but this was the real cause of death. I saw this death coming 15 years before it happened. I rush forward, 1,000 arms embrace, but she is not there. I need to go deeper. I contract and compress and dive into the needlepoint prick in her arm, taking a benzene ring in hand and spinning it into a waltz. The molecules dance as we beat a merry funeral march through her bloodstream. God damn, Sobek prose is so fucking good.
Yeah. You're locked in right now.
When are you going to teach me how to write like this, brother? Holy fuck. Passing into the spine, we are catapulted upwards, violating the blood-brain barrier. There I see her. Not as she is, but as she was. She sits at an iron-wrought park bench, watching memories flash by on silver screens. Recognizing my presence, despite my silent steps, her eyes don't leave the screens for an instant. Was I wrong? Was it me? We both know what the answer is. My silence speaks more than a sea of ink in a world of parchment. She is happy. I'm unsure if that is what she wanted to hear. I am expelled through the nose, tumbling back out onto the sticky carpet just in time. I collect the last breath from the penitent. It is a deep royal blue, thick like treacle. Running through it is a sickly streak of black-yellow. It pools in my hands, and I hold on tight to make sure it doesn't drip through my fingers onto the carpet. I do not mourn here. It would not be appropriate. After all, I had caused this. So back.
Okay. 5:32:43. I am at one of my highest peaks.
Oh yeah, it's the city itself.
A towering edifice of steel and glass which scratches at the air. The wind whips at it, bringing sounds and smells from across me to this point. I can see everything that I encompass, and the wind brings me prayers and voices. Board game suburbs sprawl before me, smoked glass and light intersect at sharp angles. Here I am most influential, my presence most clear. Not in or on the building itself, but in the sky above me. The air is sacred here, sanctuary. Someone is intruding on my temple. Teetering on the brink of it, not quite on the threshold, sitting at the edge of the tower's rooftop, feet dangling. They wear a thick, light red coat which stretches down to their shins. They anticipated the wind chill at this height, planned this. Thin black gloves rest loosely on the lip of the roof. A pair of well-worn headphones rests around their neck. They are bulky and beige and loved. Incredibly loved, a reason for this sonically powered individual to carry on. Soft and melancholic vibrations emanate from them. A treasured gift from a forefather. I know what is going to happen. They are young. Far too young. I cannot bear to witness this.
Oh, this is making me sad.
But I can't let this happen. On the other side of myself, years of cholesterol take their toll for the final time as a heart stops. I yank the static from the air, ripping broadcast to shreds. Taking the jumbled waves, I tie them into a single arrow and let loose. A body rebels against itself, traitorous cells spewing black gangrene as an empire collapses from within. For what seems like forever, nothing happens. I can feel them preparing themselves. A push and a shove is all it takes. Gravity does the rest. Anger transmutes into horror in an instant as bone snaps and life is snuffed out. They tense their hands against the stone as if to push. I cannot take more of this. I can't lose another. And then on those headphones, their sanctuary, their rock, words crackle and emerge. I'm sorry. It is enough. They look around in a panic, scrambling back from the ledge. I watch them turning their headphones over in their hands, checking the connections. Confusion sets in. I can see the gears whirring in their mind as they start rationalizing it. A trick of the wind, a manifestation of their animal brain, trying to save it from itself. I can't let this be for nothing, but they can't see me, can't hear my words. I would do anything to help them, to make it easier for them, but I can't. They stare up into the sky, then they laugh, and begin to cry. I don't know what that was, but I feel like someone is here. I haven't left a note or anything, but well, I feel like someone has to hear this. They take a deep breath. I'm empty. I don't feel anything. There is a numbness to my soul and it's killing me. I feel like I'm stuck inside amber watching my life go by. I know that things I'm doing are wrong, that they aren't good for me, but I can't bring myself to stop them from happening. I wish I could understand you. I want to know how to stop hurting you. And now I'm here, talking to myself, to the sky. I don't know why I can only do this with myself. People ask me if I'm okay, and just the thought of telling them how I feel is like swallowing acid. My anxiety is unbearable. I can't ask anyone for help, but without it, I can't fucking cope. It's a sick fucking joke. They start to inch towards the ledge. I would do anything for you. I love you so much. Every day I die over and over, but it will not stop. There are always more of you. And life just keeps carrying on. This shit is relentless. I wish the world would just stop. Let the cogs grind to a halt just for a while. Would that really be so bad? They are back on the precipice now. I can see it coming again. Looking now, I can see the pit inside of them. A sucking nothingness that takes the good things and grinds them against the sheer enormity of it all. What is anything in comparison to everything? But it's not entirely empty. There is something down there. Weak, malnourished, but alive nevertheless. I don't have much time. I take the last breath of the young man into my hands and begin to mold it. I pull out the red, teasing out the strands of pain and violence, discarding them into the ether where they writhe and vanish. I'm left with a golden thing, hope and courage and fire distilled, antithesis to your anxiety. But my work is not complete. The penitent's breath is sift through my many hands. Careful now. This toxic core of grief and shame must be removed. I can't let it poison another. The hissing black-yellow mix spits and bubbles as it dribbles into the sky, but I pay it no heed. The blue sings. It is melancholic but experienced, tempered without the brittle bitterness of age. A wall to keep you from falling apart. I take the two and combine them. Lives lived, experiences, they're all together, living on me, but so far apart. I have to force the connection. The mixture, red and blue, are now rich purple. The vibrancy and ecstasy of life tempered against the cynicism of time. The wit and resilience of age, balanced by the liberty of youth. The building blocks of a person. I ram it into their face, forcing it through nostrils, ears, eyes, and mouth. It surges through them and they take a step back in shock. I can see the void filling in front of me. Not defeated, far from it, but postponed for now. The child is looking up at me. With a start, I realize that they can see me. Who? What are you? They ask. I have never spoken to one of them that was not already dead. I know not what to say. What am I? I am too many things to describe. Too much history. Always changing, shifting, barely recognizable. Paralysis strikes me, but then it fades. I lean down towards them. I am concrete, steel, and sodium lamps. I am false stars atop office blocks that blot out the sky. I am the greatest work of art made by human hands, and I am a wretched place. I am neoliberalism made manifest, and I am the mother of the revolutionaire. I am the end of history and the crucible of the future. I am always there. You are never alone when you walk through me. I cannot help, I cannot intervene, but I am watching. Each and every one of you astounds me that you get up and do it day after day in the face of everything that is. And in honor of your resolve, I will remember you all. It is the least I can do. They look stunned. It was too much for them. They quickly back away from my visage, scrambling towards the roof exit. I tried to tell them, but it was not enough. Turning, sitting on the edge where they sat, I take myself in entirely. Smoke rises from my arteries, my children crawl across my skin, moving with their lives. So many of them. So many more existing only in my memories. Then behind me, I hear soft breathing. Fast at first, but slowing to a steady rhythm. Cold sweat beads on her palm as I grasp the metal door handle. Cautiously, the child walks across the rooftop to my side and sits down next to me. Melancholic vibrations echo from their headphones. A minute passes in silence before they clear their throat and speak. You said that you see everything? Yes. That must be hard. Getting so attached only to lose them. Has it never gotten easier? It is always painful. It only gets worse. You are increasing. The child does not know how to respond to that. Their lips are pursed as they look out over me. Eyes taking in what I really am for the first time. What multitudes I contain, and how frequently I bear witness to tragedy. Then they take my hand in theirs and stare up at me. The pain is easier when you share it. You showed me that. So, tell me about them. I smile and begin.
That was really fucking good.
Peak.
I didn't want to make any quips because it was like pretty emotional. You definitely got me there. So that was kind of
prose is fantastic. Like John L said.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Unbelievable level of writing. Like, please teach me, Sensei. But like, I kind of got the
I've now adapted to it, however.
I mean, they basically explained it at the end, but my impression throughout was kind of this idea that it's like the city or like society itself, and it was built by humans, and even though it kind of sometimes can eat them alive, so too does it also like love them and care about them. And
exactly.
This is really cool. It was so good. Fuck, that was really emotional.
Yeah, that's why I was like, probably need to give a warning ahead of time.
Only someone who lives in Birmingham truly could have crafted such a piece.
It is. Yeah.
That was I don't know how to do this because I don't want this to just like fall on like I'm praising you because my friend or feeling over the top. But this is like I think genuinely one of the best things we've read on the podcast. I'm not gonna like say it's the best thing, but I think it's like pretty upper tier.
This was like the second thing I did on like either wiki, and like even now I'm still like, man, I kind of peaked.
Okay, first of all, you didn't peak because I've read your recent shit. Second of all, it is a genuine tragedy that you were this correct at writing and not famous, because I think you were better than some of the famous authors. Not to shit on them, but like I just mean like you should be among them if that is your goal.
Yeah, I'll be the next Quantum.
Among what?
Among them?
Yeah, among them.
That's not the Among Us music.
I don't remember what Among Us music is.
This guy writes 2 Among Us.
I don't remember the Among Us music.
It goes.
No, it's coming back. My body remembers. When the imposter is sus free.
Shut up. So yeah, Concrete and Steel.
What would the subtitle be?
Gods Among Us.
What's it like?
Among Us 3 divides us. I don't know. No, for real, though, this was fucking brilliant. You're keeping the upvote, obviously. I can't wait to read the next bit you've got here.
Do we want the longer one or the shorter one?
The longer one is... we might have enough time for it if we lock in again. I do kind of like the format of interrupting, but that first one was so good, I didn't want to fucking ruin it. You had a vibe and it was immaculate.
Yeah.
Which one?
This next one is a bit more dialogue-y, so there's a bit more...
Next one is in the long one or the short one?
The long one. I think we got time for it.
Okay.
I hope.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Tanothy?
Yeah, this is doing Gravedigger.
A Gravedigger in the 10-Tongue Empire, motherfucker.
Yeah.
AGTTE. It is.
In the middle of my 16th summer, my father died. This presented me with quite the conundrum.
It sounds like the beginning of a Decemberist song.
My father had been an infamous lout, and the tales of his various scrapes and escapades would fill several tomes over. Naturally, as drunk as I want to, he had fallen into considerable debts with local moneylenders, officials, and honestly anyone he had spoken to for more than 5 minutes. His body was still warm when the first person arrived, hat in hand, to have an important conversation about my financial situation. The town had decided, in their infinite generosity, to present me with 2 options. Either I could sell my family home to a trust set up in the town, which would settle the various debts and loans I was straddled with, or I could work on the land we had for however long it took me to pay off the townsfolk. Some quick sums, I was lucky enough to be taught to read and write by my mother before she left us, told me that this would likely take the rest of my adult life. Freedom, with nothing to my name, or servitude, with a roof over my head. I had been a daze since I found out, and numbness pervaded me like I had been the one who had died and was now a corpse. Perhaps this was what it felt like to be pickled in embalming fluid. I thought back to the one time we travelled to Königsberg to visit Mother's laboratory. This was the choice that I was puzzling over when the gravedigger came to town. Our town, being small enough that sanitation was not an urgent concern, still followed the traditional burial rites of the Empire, at least when it suited the town council. I was certain that when the mayor died, they wouldn't be leaving his body to rot for a week. But who was to care about a little orphan girl with a dead drunk fermenting in her house? Traditionally, no one but the family of the deceased were permitted to touch the body. I would have described myself as weak, as I had worked the meagre fields around our house for most of my teenage years. Still, I couldn't have buried my father without help, let alone embalm the body or conduct the necessary last rites. The town had sent for a gravedigger. He had arrived on the 6th day, which was fairly prompt, all things considered. The road to Königsberg wasn't easy to travel alone. As I opened the door, he removed his leather tricorn and held it to his breast. "Is this the Rin household? I understand that you are in need of my services." His demeanour was honestly shabbier than I expected. In my mind, I had imagined someone in sterile black robes, perhaps one of those beak masks. Slightly disappointed, I scanned him up and down. He was a haggard-looking man. His grey hair was greasy and lay in haphazard strands across his shoulders, while an unkempt beard framed a dark-skinned face. He might have been handsome once. His simple white shirt was stained with blotches of brown, and a particular smell clung to him, cloying, sharp, and excessively pungent, like the fruit wines we used to brew when I was a young girl. He wore a knee-length brown overcoat, stained with dirt, but of noticeable quality. Something expensive that had not been given the level of care appropriate to its price. I thought of my mother's wedding dress, now moth-eaten, but how my father would still take it out and stare at it when he thought I wasn't looking. Would. Barely a week and I was already speaking of him in the past tense. On his back he carried a heavy satchel, covered in additional pockets and straps. It clinked softly as he walked, and he moved with a ginger yet purposeful step, as if carrying a newborn. Nestled through a leather loop attached to his satchel was what I assumed to be a shovel. For some reason, the head of the shovel was covered in a black felt sheath like a scabbard. Startled for a moment, I stood frozen, taking the strange character in. His eyes stared down into me. They were dark and watery, like ink pots, nestled over a sharp nose. After an awkward silence, he cleared his throat, and I remembered that he'd asked me a question. My tongue fumbled as I stammered out a response. Yes, my father... No, he's upstairs. He showed no signs of caring about my awkward manner, which I appreciated. He was probably used to speaking to people in far worse states than I. Had I not taken this entire situation pretty well? My condolences, then. How old's the body? He stepped inside the house, hanging his hat against the wall. This struck me as quite forward. I hadn't really invited him in. Maybe he could sense that this house wasn't mine. Not anymore, at least. A few days. Could you be more specific? It's relevant. He looked at me, his face still neutral and placid. Gods, of course he would need more details. Then it would be 5 days and 6 evenings. He came home in the night, stumbled upstairs, and he was dead when I went to bring him breakfast the next morning. Breakfast still lay in the wash basin. A layer of blue had sprouted over the buttered bread, but some part of me didn't want to clear it away yet. It was too final. He nodded and placed his bag carefully on the kitchen table. Pulling at a strap, it unfurled itself with a clunk, morphing into a flat roll of carefully preserved, spotless leather. The inside was lined with felt and sewed into it were countless pockets. Nestled within were a variety of surgical implements, glass bottles, and strange metal globules. Each item looked lovingly cared for. A sense of wonder beheld me as I watched him inspect each one in turn. Craftspeople, I thought, have such a calm energy to them. A surety that in this little slice of the world they reign supreme. There was a clear specificity to their use, each one designed for some... supreme?
And a hand landed on her shoulder. How long?
There was a clear specificity to their use, each one designed for some purpose that remained alien to me. I could only imagine what each hook, edge, and loop was supposed to do to a corpse. Popcorn.
Having inspected his equipment, he stood without a word and made his way upstairs to my father's room. I stood awkwardly, but my curiosity had been piqued. This reminded me of my faintest memories, of spending time in my mother's apartment in the city, the smells of liquids and pastes that I could not name. With mild hesitation, I followed him. My father had passed away in his bed, so I had just been burning herbs outside his room to keep the smell at bay. The gravedigger was not fazed in the slightest, whilst my eyes began to water the moment I stepped into the room. The stench assaulted my nostrils, a too-sharp sweetness stabbed into me. It had notes of the week just before the orchard harvest, where too ripe fruit that had fallen early started to spoil on the ground, before we'd had to sell the orchard. This was joined by a low stench. It somehow reminded me of the lowest notes in an old song, lingering right at the bottom of the range, tasted like curdled sweat. The discordance between the two smells, one acidic and sickening, and the other omnipresent and inescapable, left me beating my stomach into submission to not throw up. On the bed was my father. No, his corpse, I reminded myself. It was much the same as how I'd left it. His bed was a stone slab, covered with a thin mattress of gathered peat moss and hay. I'd managed to pull the mattress out from under him, leaving the slab. It had been difficult to do with my eyes closed, but I wasn't ready to see his staring face, the way it was clenched tight, pulling his lips back into a horrific grin, a dark layer of sticky, dried fluid that had pooled around the body. The gravedigger looked over him with an evaluating gaze. It echoed farmers looking at an untilled field, calculating the difficulty of the job at hand. "You were right to remove the mattress. It would have been difficult to peel him off." I was holding my breath, so didn't get the chance to inform him that I had been planning on selling it for a few pennies. The gravedigger knelt down next to the bed. He clasped his hands together and started to speak. "Honored dead, I am come to bury you. In doing so, I ask that you allow me into your family for this one night, so that I might not dishonor your remains with a stranger's touch." He stood still for about a minute, eyes shut and hands tightly interwoven. I was not aware of the significance of the words, but I felt the air grow still. A spark of invisible static. The birds outside fell silent. I could feel the breath in my lungs growing cold. "An accord has been made. Sleep now, brother." With that,
flaring his iPhone.
Oh my god, for real, the fucking aura on this gravedigger. With that, he reached out and closed my father's unblinking eyes. There was an air of finality in the room. It hung heavy like a cloud of gaseous lead, forcing me down into a chair on the far side of the room. There had been power in those words, power I had heard scraps of in myths and stories. And then, as fast as it came, it vanished. I blinked. Had I hallucinated that? The gravedigger had unfurled his bag onto the floor and was setting several clay jars aside. He had put on a pair of leather gloves and ran a loving finger along the row of implements. Sharply, he turned his gaze to me, as if remembering that I was still there. "Most people don't like this part. You can leave if you want." His voice was like water over a stony riverbed, filled with hidden things lurking below the surface. I stood, making for the door before stopping. If I were to resign myself to a life of mundanity, tilling fields for debts not my own, then I wanted to embrace this last interesting sight before it slipped away. I feel like I need to see this through. We didn't see eye to eye, but he's still my father. He raised a somewhat accusatory eyebrow. "I can stomach this," I lied. In reality, the stench was close to driving me from the room, but something about the stranger had me wanting to stay. His entire person commanded such a calmness, a stillness, that quelled my anxiety. As long as I was with him, I wouldn't have to think about what lay ahead, and simply put, I didn't want to be alone in that moment. I sat back down in the chair. It was likely the bravest thing I'd done in my life up until now. He smiled. "Rare, but commendable. Watch, then." He began by pulling a pad of parchment and a stick of charcoal from his bag. Scratching in a script I did not recognize, he took what I assumed to be a set of general notes, quantifying the dead into cubits and inches. Placing those aside, he stripped the clothes off the body, discarding them in the corner. He turned to me, assuming the role of a teacher. "Those can be burned. You will not get the smell out." For my dignity, he placed a small cloth over my father's upper thighs. I silently thanked him. Gods, the smell did not get easier to handle. It felt as though I were permanently stained, like some part of the stench would never leave me. From a felt pocket on his roll of tools, he selected a scalpel and a large wooden block. He gingerly lifted the body from the stone with a faint ripping sound, placing the block under the shoulders. I watched as he then carefully split my father in two, making 2 incisions in the shoulders and then dragging his scalpel down long ways to the base of the stomach. Pulling the skin back, a noxious-smelling steam escaped into the air. This was too much for me. The wet sound. I had thought that I could take it. Gods! I had thought that being there would prove something. Bile welled up in my throat. I ran from the room to the latrine, but only got partway down the stairs before half-digested chunks of bread, bile-coated, spilled from my mouth, staining my teeth with acid. It all came out together. The grief like a tide swept me away and pulled me under. I stood gasping for breath, my throat stinging and raw. I was drowning. I felt a hand on my shoulder. My God, he really is the Supreme.
Yeah, Supreme.
I forgot about this.
The gravedigger stood behind me. Taking my hand into his, he led me down the stairs. He had removed his surgeon's gloves. Going to the wash basin, he wetted a rag, then wiped my mouth and eyes with a surprising tenderness. I wept and wept as the grief I had kept bottled up over the past few days came spilling out like a corked-up spring. He sat silently the entire time, only moving to clean the rag and allow me to dry my tears. It was only when my fit had subsided, when we had remained silent for several minutes, that he then spoke. I would tell you that I know how you're feeling, that I understand your emotions, as if that would somehow lessen their impact. But I can't. I've been doing this for so many years that it barely phases me anymore. Grief is my life, death is my duty. I am truly sorry that I cannot be a greater comfort to you. When the villagers had offered me mourning and well wishes, it had rung so hollow, none of them had cared. I knew that, they knew that. The charade infuriated me. But when this man, this stranger, spoke, I was certain that he was genuine, because he wasn't trying to comfort me. He understood that grief is not rational, that sorrow does not care for platitudes and words, that dark thoughts needed to be expressed. With that he stood up, moving towards the stairs. It would not be fair for me to abandon this duty. I will let you know when, in a flash of resolve, I stood to my feet. I want to be there. He turned to look at me. His eyes evaluated me with the same look he had scanned over my father's corpse. He seemed to find something he was looking for, as his lips pursed in a sliver of a smile. Come then. I will not stop a second time, so try to hold it in. Do you want to take over, Subek, or do you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Go for it.
We entered the room together. The smell was no easier to manage, but I felt a core of resolve. I could ignore it now. Not forget it, but ignore it. He finished pulling back the skin and without turning, spoke. Would you like to help? I stood. What do you need me to do? Pass me the shears. Third column, second row, the one that looks like a pair of gardening clippers. There should be 4. I handed him the shears. He placed them forcefully in several locations across the exposed ribcage, keeping the incision open. He then carefully severed ligaments before forcefully cracking the ribcage free. Placed it to one side. I felt an alien sense of detachment, staring at my father's bones. 5th column, first row. I quickly retrieved the long, sharp blade, watching as he carved out my father's lungs, heart, stomach, and kidneys in quick succession, gently placing each into its own clay receptacle. As I passed him the jars, I inspected the inscriptions on the side. A script I did not recognize, but faceless figures scratched into river clay ascended from stone slabs to the sky. Noticing my interest, he gestured, beckoning me to approach. We are told that the body accumulates sin as the riverbed accumulates silt. Throughout a long life it dwells inside us, burdening our lives and causing us to wither and age. Since time immemorial, we remove these organs after death, lightening the body of its load and allowing the departed to soar free. Do you believe that? I asked. I had not been to Mass in several years. My father was no longer welcome there. The clergyman had always preached generosity when asking for donations, but was nowhere to be found when a poor orphan girl found herself beset by creditors. No, I do not. But those I operate on usually do, and it is my solemn duty to respect their last wishes and bring them to a just conclusion. My own beliefs are immaterial. As he spoke, he was slicing the connecting tissues of a large brown mass, pockmarked and covered with scar tissue. His fingers reached around, searching for something specific, before retrieving a black-looking orb. Ah. He pulled a glass vial from his bag, squeezing a thick ichor from the lump he held. He added some unknown fluid and began to stir the liquid. I felt fully detached now, like my own heart had been excised. Only curiosity stirred me as this stranger handled my father's organs. He spoke, but his eyes did not move from his work as he measured out specific quantities of odd red fluids. He didn't suffer. I could almost laugh. My father had seen his entire life as nothing but a long series of tragic outcomes and suffering. My father died years ago, when my mother left him. He suffered plenty. Sorry, I should clarify, it wasn't painful. He literally couldn't have felt a thing as he passed. He held the small lump of meat from my father's torso and was holding it gingerly in his palm for me to inspect. It was pitch black and swollen with purge fluid. Sorry, Gods, that stinks. What is that? It's his gallbladder. His liver is even worse condition. I haven't seen one this bad for a while. He placed the lump into a small clay jar. Your old man drink much? Constantly, he made his own stuff, out of turnips. He paused and I could see the pieces clicking into place. Wrote me. I took the gravedigger outside to the shack where my father kept his barrels of foul-smelling liquors. He opened one up, dipped his finger inside, and brought it to his lips. Even from the door of the shack, the reek of fermenting vegetables and discarded fruit waged a silent war in my nostrils. Yep, sorry to say, your father poisoned himself. I was not especially startled. Even when we had owned an orchard and made cider, my father had never been a talented brewer. How? He drank enough alcohol to incapacitate a horse. He wouldn't have felt it if I cut a finger off. The man had a fierce vendetta against his own liver. I hadn't known it was that bad. That would hold true for much of his life. His liver was not exactly his sole enemy. The gravedigger looked back into the shed. People don't usually drink this heavily unless they're trying to forget something. Your mother must have been a hell of a woman. Popcorn?
After some time he had finished, he and I took the clay jars in hand, placed them into the wagon he'd arrived in. I then helped him to sew up my father's body and carry it, wrapped in a funeral shroud, down the stairs onto the back of the cart. We were silent throughout. He was contemplating something. Or maybe I wasn't as good a judge of character as I thought, and he'd grown tired of me. I was silent because I simply had nothing left to say. We drove for some time as I guided him to the barrows outside the town. A small tower, preserved more by luck than care, held a stone slough on its roof. Over the following days, birds and insects would come to take my father to the sky. He'd been a religious man before drink and sorrow exterminated his better nature. That goes hard. As was tradition, I placed the jars around my father's body as he lay on the slab, before turning and leaving. He had been my father, but he had not been a good father. He had his excuses, always had. He had cursed during the fleeting moments of sobriety, but now he was dead. And whilst we had removed his accumulated sins, stored them in little pots to be eaten by carrion, they still weighed me down. But with that, it was done. What will you do now? I asked. I had resigned myself to my fate. I have many more tasks to see to. Those in my line of work rarely have time to rest. He was staring up at the stars, probably deciding whether to stay the night or risk the open road in pitch dark. At least you get to see the world, travel, meet interesting people presumably. Everyone's the same when they mourn, whether they be interesting or not. I have performed services for nobility, artists, paupers, and all in between. Fundamentally, grief pushes most people through the same mould. There was an awkward silence. What of you? Can you not go out and see the world yourself? I explained my situation to him, how I'd soon be essentially penniless or in unsolvable debts. As I did so, a shadow crossed his face, barely illuminated by the flickering of the torch. We rode in silence into the stars for some time, making our way back to the township. As we passed over the Emmy River Bridge, he turned suddenly. There was a fire in his eyes, a passion that had previously been absent. Come with me. Learn under me. I will take you on as apprentice. There's no sense in a sharp girl like you waiting away in a backwater like this, burdened by her father's sins. It struck me like a bolt. I sat stunned for a moment before responding. What? I can't do what you do. I don't know anything about bodies. You know more than I did when I began my studies under my master. You have the will for this, and I will teach you. I felt as though a trick were being played on me. This was something out of a story. This didn't happen to people like me. Are you sure? He stared at me with genuine bafflement. I immediately regretted it. He was going to reject me. Clearly my grief-addled display of competence earlier had gotten him curious, and he was now disinterested. I was bracing for his rejection before he snorted loudly and began to chuckle. You will learn. I am not the kind of man to offer something I don't intend to give. I stood for a moment, paralysed. The gravedigger's assistant was not the kind of life I'd expected to lead, but... I thought of years of toil, still in that same stinking house, sleeping in the room where my father had died, or inevitable fate of homelessness and vagrancy on the city streets. I'd been agonising over the choice that I would make, but when it came down to it, it was hardly a choice at all, was it? I'll do it. Good, then we should make a proper introduction as teacher and pupil. My name is Tarek. He smiled and extended a hand. I'm Kesa. I took his in mine to shake before he pulled me in with surprising strength and embraced me in a hug. I had thought that my tears would run drier that day, but I found I had more to give. Pleasure to meet you, Kaiserin. Though neither of us knew at the time, under the starry sky, a father and daughter embraced for the first time.
Oh, fuck.
Peak.
For fucking that, yeah, the first time I've ever had to click more from this author because I've given a shit. Oh my god.
Who is this guy?
Sobek 109? Get rid of the 109. You're just Sobek.
You're Sobek 108.
You're too.
Right?
You're too. You're too grand.
Sobek was taken.
Get rid of the other one. You're too grand for a 109 after your name.
You are singular.
You should be like the fucking Tanody or the Pepper. You should not be Sobek 109. Who the fuck is OG Sobek? I'll kill them.
I'm too British for these compliments. You're killing me.
Oh my god.
I'm dying.
You have like, oh, it's so I have a question genuinely. First of all, 13 out of 10, amazing article. I'll get into that in a second.
Oh.
I'm curious. Do you have like a very vivid imagination? Like, do you picture things vividly in your? Okay. I was wondering if that's part of why your prose was so good. Because like, obviously you're skilled. You've been doing this a lot.
Hold an apple.
But
rotate
like, I wonder if that's part of it. Because like, I struggle with like picturing images in my head.
Okay,
I feel
actually, I'm not like super visual. I'm just like I can clearly picture like how a scene plays out in my head necessarily, and then I kind of just like know what mood I want to set.
Like
a lot of it is vocabulary, I think.
No,
like,
not even because like I think Tan and I have vocabulary, but the way you put words together, like I am the kind of guy who I can't make images in my head very well, but when I read your writing, I get so engaged I can like kind of see images a little bit, like faintly. Like I'm there, and it's like it pulls me in a way that again, not to discount other authors or to glaze you too hard, but like a lot of times we read these articles and I'm somewhat attached, somewhat disinterested, you know, we're playing off each other, but I was like so invested in this that I had things I wanted to ask you. I had quips I wanted to make, but I didn't want to break the vibe. It felt like I was entranced, like I was immersed. And I didn't want to ruin that. And I don't feel that with a lot of the works we read. Again, not to discount them, but I think you have something like really genuinely special that the world needs more of. It's just fucking fantastic. Honestly.
Too kind to be.
Anyway,
Tan, you get me now.
Your thoughts?
I really liked it. Do you plan to do more with this? Because it feels like the beginning of something.
I was going to say, it feels like the beginning of something, but at the same time, like if you expand it into a series without a clear vision, it would kind of like fall off.
I do have like, I was going to do it at the time. Don't look at when this was posted, Smile. But I might come back to it. I may.
This is what it feels like to read Downpour.
If I was going to do a chapter 2 of anything I'd written in the Wanderer's Library, it'd be this one.
It's like reading Downpour. Oh man, this is great. When's the next chapter? 1,000-yard stare soldier gif.
It's happening.
Can I read you? Can I read the line that you sent me, Sobek, to Tan real quick?
Oh, please do.
Tan. So Sobek told me he was getting back into Downpour, and he wrote this bit of prose in his notes. That was so good. I know you're gonna love this shit. Are you ready for this?
Sorry.
Downpour spoilers. The gene tyrants were dead. This was an unspoken truth, and yet their sympathizers were executed. This was an unwritten law, and yet their empire was history. This was an unquestionable fact, and yet. Once you got to a certain stage in the military, once your powers were relatively mature, you were given an appointment at a specific training center. Prepared there were vast rectangles of congealed fat, skin, and gristle, a byproduct of the processing for military rations. You were handed a blade, and a cold-faced instructor taught you the specific measurements and methods for slicing flesh into cubes that were exactly 9 by 9 by 9. You were not told why you needed to know this, and yet each and every cadet did know why they had to learn this. Each of them hoped that they would never have to use it.
peek. That was very good. I'm looking forward. I have the keys to the kingdom. Next chapter, I'm looking forward to it. So
I can't wait for Downpour to introduce a new concept that radically changes the main series.
No, you misunderstand. I'm looking forward to the next chapter of the main story from you, so back. It's yours now.
Oh, no.
Take the fucking keys to Aethereal Space, my guy.
Oh, wait. I can make any ship I want canon.
Chirkan and Muzazi.
Just gonna edit the end of Arcade a little bit.
No, you can't.
Oh, finally, Arcade's good.
You just have to guess what my plans were.
You can't edit anything, including the numerous typos that need to be fixed desperately.
No, wait.
There's no notes. You have to guess what I was thinking was.
You clearly keep notes because you reference things so far back.
No, I mean, like there are notes, but you're not getting them. Is what I'm saying.
No. Oh, shit.
Oh my lordy!
You'll get one chapter of 6 months, and you'll be happy with it.
Oh, never mind. You can't take over Aethereal Space at all costs. It's not worth it.
That's what I was saying today. I was like, I don't have the work ethic. I don't have the work ethic for it.
Oh my god. Fucking... How do we follow that up? How are we supposed to read anything else on this podcast now? And
this is really the Scaring the Hose episode of Discovering SCP. Huh?
What do you mean?
You're scaring
no quips, no comedy. We're just reading.
People are like, oh, I heard this was a funny podcast. Oh, they're reading. Yeah, it was fucking good. Okay, we made a couple jokes about Aethereal Space. That's all you get.
You're not a tan lovely. You're a tan horrid.
Oh. Horrid.
That's when someone is a bad fan, but they still fall under.
So we get tan lovely and tan horrid as roles in the Discord.
Oh my
it's like a war.
God, that was.
It's like we both worship tan, didn't we? We both have the same commanders.
Tan lovelies versus Sobek heads. Who would win?
Me standing on a landmine, like, haven't you realised there are no tan horrids?
I just realized we didn't upload the second episode of JoJo's. I gotta do that later.
This guy's he just watched the Doctor episode with me. He doesn't catch my epic reference.
What? I'm so sorry.
I haven't even seen the episode and I got the epic reference.
I wasn't paying attention.
Standing on a landmine being like, so you understand there are no tan horrids.
Oh. That was good. I gotta be honest, I've never... Doctor Who is something I've genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, wanted to be into, because a lot of my friends are into it. Every time, I'll see a clip, and it'll have so much aura, I'll be like, oh, let's get into this, and then I watch Doctor Who, and it's like the episode where the aliens are wearing human suits and farting, and I'm like, okay, so that's Doctor Who. And I
think I've realised what the thing is. Whenever I tried to watch Doctor Who with Donnell, we've been doing it in, like, production order.
Yeah. But Tan just showed me the two latest episodes of the newest reboot series, and, like, I was blown the fuck away. It was so good. Especially the newest one that everyone's talking about online. That one was fucking
I watched the
brilliant.
first episode of the new series. I need to get into the next few.
I want to become a Who head. I want to know the lore. I want the good shit.
I watched the first episode of this new series, and I've really enjoyed this new series, but I do have to say the first episode I thought was dog shit.
Yeah.
What, the Space Babies one?
Yeah.
I also thought it was a little bit mid, but...
Yeah. And I'm a maniacal...
Doctor Who fans...
For me to say that, you must understand.
Doctor Who fans they learn to accept the mid. Yeah.
They have shooters. I'm scared.
Well, I've learned a thing about... Let me tell you something I've learned, right? And I've learned this from Pokemon, and I've learned this from Star Wars. So I grew up on Pokemon. I don't pay attention to new shit, but I like Pokemon. So when people who weren't into Pokemon growing up and play it, and they're like, kind of boring, I'm like, what? But yet Star Wars. So Star Wars for me, I'm sure you know this about me already. I've said this. I didn't get into Star Wars at all as a kid. I had two older sisters. My parents didn't give a shit about showing me the series. I didn't watch Star Wars for the first time until I was 18. And I watched all the prequels and the normal movies. I did normal movies first, then prequels. And then I watched the new movies as they came out with my friends. It's not that it was like bad or anything, especially the original trilogy I thought was pretty all right. You know, I had fun with it. But like the sheer love of Star Wars that Star Wars fans have, remembering every little character, acting like every little piece of the universe is good, and a lot of it's just kind of mid. But like
every Glupito and fucking
and like I know now it's no longer unpopular because of all the shitty Disney shows, but even like through the movies, I'm like, they're
okay. But Andor was crazy. If you watched Andor was fucking.
Well, my point is not to down the Star Wars movies; they're good, but like. Yeah. I think there's so much of a cultural touchdown and so much of it's growing up with it that they are way overhyped as like a masterpiece of cinema that they are not.
I just want to plug Andor.
Okay.
Everything Star Wars is mid recently, except they somehow accidentally made the best political thriller ever made. It's great.
Okay.
Go watch it.
But my point is, like, I think there's a component there where like if you don't grow up with something, you like are, I don't want to say more critical of it, but like it has to prove itself more to you, I guess. Or maybe it's just because I have no life and I've consumed so much media that maybe I have a slightly higher standard. There's some shit like that, but like I don't know, things I grew up with I'm very protective of, even the dog shit parts. But then like Doctor Who, a lot of people who are fans of it grew up with it, and then I watched fucking some of the early episodes. I'm like, this is so mid, it's so bad, I don't care. Because that was the experience I used to have with Doctor Who. My friends would all get into it, and they'd show me the Weeping Angels episode. I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then they'd be like, let's watch the series. And I'd watch some other episodes. I'm like, this is so fucking boring. But now that I've gotten to the new ones, I think Who might be peak. It just might be peak.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Anyway, wait, did you start Darnell on like the old shit, like the BBC stuff? Like the fucking, the old...
Not the old, but like the beginning of the first reboot series.
I mean, the first reboot series is great. What are you on?
Look, there are episodes that were great. I fucking love the Dalek
every
episode.
Season of Doctor Who, there are the good episodes and the mid episodes.
Yeah, like the episode when he's like, "You wouldn't make a good Dalek." That was good. And then you get like they're fucking around with like ghosts in ancient England, Victorian England.
Wow.
or like a fucking episode with the alien farm suits.
Charles Darwin.
Yeah.
No, it's not even Darwin.
Episode like that is an obligated episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, real quick, we have comments to
because you can't go back into the past to show they can go to the past.
What are you talking about? There's 6 more articles about grief and death to read, Darnell. We're just getting started.
No. Are all your articles around those themes?
No.
I will say
I have one about a non-binary fantasy chef having a cooking battle with a Wendigo. That one's fun.
Nice. All right, Dino Tales says, "Do you want to stick around for comments, Sobek?"
Of course.
Dino Tales says,
has anyone ever said no to that?
I think one time we had someone that was like, I got stuff to go, so I'll see you. But I don't.
Can you link the most recent episode so I can read some of the comments?
Yeah, or I'll try anyway. Give me a second.
You don't need to ask, okay?
Warning. Oops. So since I'm recording desktop, the warning got caught in it once or twice.
Dino Tales is a bit sassy. I just read the comment.
All right. So Dino Tales says, 5002, a wonderful mystery article. Hey, maybe in the next episode, you can try to solve the mystery of why it took you so long to read the actual episode.
Fucking hell.
Okay, first,
I said there were no Tanlovelies.
So I will say, sorry for the hiatus. It was for an important personal reason that I'm not going to get into.
I think they meant to the 20 minutes at the start of the episode where we didn't read the episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that one's on us for sure.
However, you are now at the
Dino Tales hates japes and antics. Fucking hate.
This is like my fear too.
See your body beginning to change.
I remember even during the episode, I could have swore I said shit like, "Tan, we got to get to the reading," but we just kept going, and I was like, "They're gonna hate this." And then I saw JT's comment, and I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be okay." Dino Tales has wiped that heat.
Now that I've introduced Tan Horrids and Tan Lovelies, I am going to judge each comment and assign you an identity.
This is your 13 out of 10. Are you a Tan Horrid or a Tan Lovely?
Quick question from Dino Tales. Hello, guest, whoever you are. I have a question for you. Can you beat your SCPs in a fight?
It's like the stories you read, so could you beat the Gravedigger?
No. He's saying SCPs, not Wanderer's Library.
Okay.
I could not beat the Gravedigger in a fight. I feel like I could beat the City Ghost in a fight because they would just love me and hug me.
Well, wouldn't that defeat you?
Maybe.
But on the other side, how many people do you think have fought against the city and lost throughout the years?
That's so true.
It was like, this is how a bill gets
I mean, hell, that's what almost happened to the guy at the end of that article.
Yeah, but they locked in.
They fought the Lord and the Lord lost, actually.
My SCPs, I have one about 6 goblins. They would kick my ass. The art collection, I could fight because it's art.
Also, I really loved going back to that first article we read. I loved Sonic Powered Individual in relation to the headphone, like the music.
Yeah,
I related to that a lot. That was good.
Yeah, that was me. I was like, "Yep,
this is literally me." Dino Tail says, "Good episode, guys. Don't forget to read 7916 in the future. Don't fail them like you failed." Fuck. We did give them permission to remind us. We have to read 7916.
Whoops. Well, we read Wanderer's Library instead.
We said in the future. Well, no, we did say there'd be a break before we read it, so we'll read it next episode.
Yeah, because we have a guest. We had to get Sobek on and read peak fiction.
The ball and chain Sobek.
Only the best things we've ever read on this podcast, almost. It was like
Hey, you're
actually
silly,
so
yeah?
good.
I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry.
You know what? I might have to put you on the same tier as Hippo, maybe even above. I don't know, because both of
That
your
is
works I got
too.
absorbed.
That's too
in.
much. That's
No,
too
it's
much.
not.
I
I'm being
can't say
serious.
that.
Like both of your works are some of the
That's
only
my
ones
goat
we've
right
read
there.
where I got like in there. Oh my god! How
my
do you
goat.
do it? Can you? Is it something you can teach me? I want lessons.
I can try. I don't know how.
I think I
but
just
I
need
can
to
give it a
build a
go.
mind for prose. Maybe I just need to read more like I did as a kid. Try and
reading
think
is good.
harder instead of just writing the first thing that comes to my head and editing it.
Yeah.
God, you paint such an... Okay, yeah, enough of that. Andrew Marshall says, one of my girlfriend and I's first true dates after being friends for a while was watching the cutscene compilation movie of MGS1 together in one sitting.
Tan Lovely.
True romance.
True romance.
You're a Tan Lovely. We're in pride and fight for my honour. That's a Tan Horrids.
MT2K21 says, when you want to commit Sudoku but you're religious, Gege just made all JJK manga readers very confused. Yeah, I don't know if you're caught up on the leaks, Tan, but
I am, yeah.
The leaks are crazy.
They were crazy. On one hand, it was Pog, but like in terms of the symbolism of what happened, it's so fucked on a deep level.
Yeah,
it's like it's like actually extremely tragic, and it breaks my heart. Anyway, Repalu says, great episode, like always, smile. Rex.
I read this.
Well, I didn't assign them factions. Can you clear your roll?
Oh, sorry.
MT2K is a Tan. Well, there's not really positive or negative energy in this comment, so maybe there's a third faction.
Tan neutral.
Tan Judicator.
Okay.
They're like the UN.
Can you please stop trying to make Tan Lovelies a thing? I'm begging
It's
you.
too late.
Tanlovelies is a thing. I'm fully on board.
Ripalu, of course, is a Tan Lovely.
All right, let's.
I'm going to read
I know
this
it's
comment.
gone from the bit has gone from them being like my soft boy fan name, like factions of the fucking endless civil war.
They're your fucking Dune, like Empire soldiers.
That's
exactly.
We just watched the capitalism like horror war episode, and you're already assigning factions within your own fandom to make them fight each other.
Yeah,
of course.
Repalu says,
"Don't you understand? There's no Tan Lovelies."
What can you?
I'm
rate
stealing
Repalu?
the next. No, you read that one.
Yeah, I know. He has to rate it so we can move on.
Oh,
what
he said
they said
they
great
were Tan
episode
Lovely.
like always. Oh, okay.
Well, yeah,
He said
Tan
they were
Lovely.
All right, you got the next one. Go.
Well, you should
Read Aetheral Space. It's funny, serious, and thrilling at the same time. I'm Arc 7. I can say it's worth your time. Also, the 10 to 20 minutes of random in the beginning are what the listeners are here for at this point. This is the supreme Tan Lovely.
That is the high-ranking Tan Lovely.
that is a contender of the Tan Lovely
rank
army.
7 out of 10 Tan Lovely, near the apex of power.
Actually, on our scale, that's like half.
One of the 4 demon general Tan Lovelies.
Blueberry7171 says, hey, Tan Honey and Darnell. I'm only on episode 37 right now. No, why did you start at the beginning?
They'll know all about Reagan.
I hate that so much that I can't get over it. Oh my god.
I'm sure no one judges for it. Don't be angry.
Okay.
God.
I'm only on episode 37 right now, but I just wanted to say that I'm currently trying to write my first SCP, and it's because of this podcast. That's what we
Let's
love to hear,
fucking
brother.
go. Let's go.
Spiritually, I can feel you are a potent Tan Lovely. However, you failed to address Sobek, so you are assigned Tan
They
Horrids.
couldn't have possibly known.
They should have predicted.
I must say, Blueberry, number one thing I love
And also, we need more Tan Horrids because the numbers.
Blueberry, when you get to this episode in a couple of months,
yeah,
There's
down the
nothing
line.
wrong with being a Tan Horrid.
yeah, there is. It's implied in the name. No,
It
jokes aside,
just means they're more badass.
let me. I'm smacking you.
Smacked me!
Okay, never mind.
Sorry.
no, do the bit. Do the bit.
I was gonna say, there's nothing better than hearing that we were able to inspire someone else to create things. Because I think, from the bottom of my heart, that everyone has something that only they have, right? And it doesn't have to just be writing, whether it's a story or a song or the work you do at your job, if it's meaningful to you, or what you build. I think everyone has something that only they can put in the world in their own way, if that makes sense. Or like even
I'm nodding so vigorously right now.
And to hear someone be inspired to try and do that, to see people create things, is, no matter what form that takes, is always really beautiful to me. So I'm really happy to hear about that. Whether you finish your SCP or work on something else, I hope you continue to create. Same to everybody who listens to this podcast. That is the number one takeaway. Except for Tanhoney, he shouldn't be allowed to write anything.
Tanhoney.
Signed
I was about to say that everyone was Tanlovelies on the inside, but you instantly proved me fucking wrong. You're a Tanhoney stuff looking for.
Fucking Hackney over here. Didn't even give us a second Aether chapter this week.
With each fucking word...
Wait, there's no second Aether chapter?
There's no second Aether chapter this week because he's a fucking hack who couldn't get it together. I'm telling you.
I'll have to take over.
That's what I'm saying. Put pen to paper.
Do you see, Sova? This is what you could have become if you weren't a Tanlovely.
Should let me write a guest episode of Aether Space.
Tanhoney, after the end of Arc 8, doesn't have any rights, I thought.
No, he really doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, thank you guys for watching, as always.
It's so cruel.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, my Tanlovely.